former Tory government advisor, James Price. Welcome, James.
From one hellraiser bad boy to another, right?
Yeah, okay. If you like, James. Right, so we'll be a hellraiser as you answer these questions. Let's have a little look at Keir. He was in front of the Liaison Committee today, and extraordinarily, he claimed that there is plenty of spare housing, both for illegal migrants and homeless Brits. Let's have a look.
Just a pinpoint before. What other accommodation precisely are you planning to take over to provide temporary accommodation for families?
Oh, there's lots of housing in many local authorities that can be used, and we're identifying where it can be used. But I mean, look.
Sorry, could you give us? Have you got any examples you can give us?
No, but I'll write in and give you details.
Because I could say certainly in a number of our local authorities, I'm already picking up from around the table, there isn't a lot of spare housing available. If there were, councils would be able to be dealing with it by now.
Well, exactly.
That's Meg Hillier, a Labour MP, giving the Prime Minister one hell of a hard time. What do you think he's talking about? I mean, he seems to be saying that all we have to do is get all these migrants out of the asylum seeker hotels. They're sprayed, 202 of them around the country, about 30,000 we think in these various hotels. So he seems to say there's plenty of housing for them. And also for Britain's homeless people and presumably people who've been waiting on the social housing queue for a fair few years. So we don't actually have a problem in how to accommodate these people. In fact, we don't have a housing problem. There is plenty of housing, says the Prime Minister. Any idea what he's talking about?
Where even to begin with this? From a man whose last year has been ignominious in the extreme, he's managed to hit a new low. And I think you could hear when he said that, the sound of many Labour advisors huddled up inside number 10, slamming their heads down on their desks as he said it. Absolutely extraordinary. The only way, Kev, that he might be right is because the exodus of people sadly fleeing Britain for places with better constitutional arrangements and more peace and justice, maybe somewhere like Syria at this rate, right? That's the only way there could be a lot of empty homes if people keep fleeing away. No, there aren't lots and lots of empty homes like this around, but people, it's fine, we'll just use the taxpayers' money to buy houses above the market rate and price people out of it and give those homes to the asylum seekers. It is completely bonkers. The thing that's starting to scare me is we're seeing from the scenes in Epping recently. The horrible thing allegedly happened there, and local people rightly have had enough of this hotel full of fighting age men who've come over here illegally and are being housed on the taxpayer dime, right? And all the kind of problems we've seen happen and the rest of it. It's sounding like the people may have been moved out of that hotel in Epping, and there's a rumour they've been moved into somewhere else where they're already...
I can tell you where it is. It's right? The Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. We have sent an ace reporter down there, Phil Dave. And the coppers standing outside, there it is. The coppers standing outside have confirmed to our man Phil Dave that indeed this is now a migrants hotel, a asylum seeker hotel. And we haven't got absolute confirmation of this, but it does seem as if at least some of the asylum seekers in the Bell Hotel in Epping have been moved to this rather flash hotel in a very posh area. So already a protest building up there. You can't just move the deck chairs around the deck of the Titanic and expect people not to notice, can you, James?
No, absolutely right. This sort of fatuous thinking of going, the locals of Epping will be happy now because they've got use of the hotel back, right? As if the hotel bit is the real problem. No, the problem is that we've got tens of thousands of fighting age men who keep pouring across the English Channel day after day after day we've now got. And I did the calculations on this and told you about this before, Kev. We've had twice as many people since 2018 come over on small boats than we have regular members of the British Army. British Army regular forces, only something like 72,000 people, and we've had about 160,000 people cross over on small boats since 2018. Amongst them will be members of ISIS, members of Al-Qaeda, the lowest of the low, the scummiest of the scummiest, and we've seen alleged examples of their crimes and misbehaviours, and people are fed up of that. It's not the idea that, oh no, we can't go and enjoy the local hotel. And by the way, this hotel they moved into in Canary Wharf, I had a quick look, lovely swimming pool that the migrants will be able to enjoy there. Enough is enough. We've got to have a permanent solution to this problem. Rwanda would have been one example, a proper permanent deterrent to keep people away, but it's only now a matter of time before some other recent arrival does some other unspeakable act, and then you've got a protest there, and then you'll have copycat protests all over the place. And can you blame people for not wanting to have this when they've seen how weak this government has been on law and order, and how they just feel unsafe for their wives and their children, their husbands, their brothers, their sisters, their mums, their dads, whoever it may be? You cannot import the third world and not expect to have the third world rock up on your doorstep. And they're not going to become magically, wonderfully cultivated people overnight.
And in terms of the Prime Minister's contention that there's plenty of housing, plenty of social housing all over the country, both for migrants and legitimate British citizens, I wonder what the 1.3 million British citizens waiting on the list for social housing would think about that. 1.3 million people are waiting to get council houses, social housing, and many of them have been waiting for a good many years. And the Prime Minister just rocks up and says, no, we've got plenty of housing. I wonder what people who have been on that list for, say, 5 years think about that, particularly the people who've been on the list for 5 years to see Afghani migrants who have been secretly airlifted into this country, leapfrogging to the top of the queue. I wonder what they all think.
Yeah, well, absolutely right. It's two-tier housing to go along with two-tier policing and two-tier justice and two-tier healthcare. I think the asylum seekers get two-tier dental work as well that we don't get. I think that's another thing we've seen that they all get. When is this going to end? When are people going to wake up and realise that this stuff has to stop? Well, in fact, actually, the people have started to wake up and realise this. The politicians haven't, and they think they can get away with it. And what we are brewing up, unfortunately, is the seeds of major and unending discontent. Now, even someone like John Locke, the great English philosopher who talked about the idea that legitimacy inside government comes from the consent of the governed, aka moving towards things like elections, said that when a state stops being legitimate, then you have every right for a revolution. If mild-mannered philosopher John Locke was saying it 400 years ago, imagine what the mums at Epping and around the place, around the rest of the country, are going to think when they start seeing these people attack their kids, has been alleged, and all these other horrible assaults that have been alleged. Some of these people, I'm sure, are perfectly lovely, but the fact is that the very first act they've done coming into Britain is to break the law by entering here illegally from France, a perfectly safe country. And they've got no interest in becoming nice cultivated Brits wearing tweed jackets and queuing and all that sort of stuff. They want to come here because they know we're a soft touch and we give them benefits straight out of your pocket, my pocket, and the pockets of everybody who's listening and watching here this evening.
Let's go back to, quite right, James, couldn't agree with you more. This is what Starmer told the committee, if I can quote him again. Oh, there is lots of housing and many local authorities that can be used. We've identified where it can be used. So Meg, the committee chairman, pressed him on this. So bearing in mind, she's Labour. You know, she's constitutionally sort of not inclined to humiliate the Prime Minister, but she sure as hell did. She said, well, where is all this spare accommodation? And he said, well, I don't have, I'll have to get back to you with that. I'll have to get back to you with that. And then she said, because the reason I ask is that a lot of us, our local areas, we find that councils are under great pressure because they don't have any spare social housing. And Keir Starmer went, well, exactly.
It's just extraordinary, isn't it? That's his comeback on this.
Doesn't even make any sense. Where's the continuity there?
No, well, are we surprised about this? This is a man, again, who says he doesn't dream, who doesn't have a favourite book, has got no imagination whatsoever, is only kind of robot programmed to respond in the most bland and banal way possible, right? And the bit that really gets me about this as well, you mentioned people waiting for social housing. What about the millions of younger people who are unable to get on the property ladder because houses haven't been built because politicians haven't made the case for how important house building is. That might not be so popular for me to say, but it is true. And we've seen a massive divorcing of incomes and house prices over the last 35 years. And I would say, and I've done a lot of the analysis at the Adam Smith Institute, that the biggest thing that's holding back growth is that kind of housing crisis. So the fact, again, not only have you got the people on social housing who will need it, not only have you got people who would want to get right to buy going on as well, not only have you got then millions and millions of young people now who can't get on that property ladder, or older people who want to downsize and get into a house that's better for them, they can't because the stamp duty is so high. All these kinds of problems we've got with an Englishman's home is supposed to be his castle. But then to rub insult on injury, you're going to take all that taxpayers' money, buy some of these extra houses because you pretended that there are some available, and give them to people who've broken the rules and come here 5 minutes ago. It's that burning injustice that British people feel so keenly. And Starmer doesn't seem to get it at all. It's gone in one ear and out the other, as we saw from that clip. He doesn't understand what a massive hypocrite he's become, and the government that he is leading is taking us to rack and ruin on this topic, as they are on everything else.
I'll tell you what's very important to British people. It runs deep in their soul, in their DNA, is a sense of fairness. And what's going on here is not fair. Foreigners are being prioritised over British citizens. These Afghanis leapfrogging to the top of housing queues. These asylum seekers basically given free life, for 70 quid a week, free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, all of these things that we have to pay for. I'm going to talk to someone who's worked in these hotels in just a little while, but a little bit of a spoiler alert. He's worked in 2 of these hotels in Norfolk. He says the first thing that happens with the migrants when they turn up, the asylum seekers, is, it's a bit of a dilemma for them. They just don't know which one to choose. They're offered a choice of 2 phones. Would you like an iPhone or would you like a Samsung? That's the first problem they have when they arrived at these hotels. Which phone to choose? Which free phone to choose? British people find out about this. They are finding out about this. It goes against the grain for us. It's not fair. And if Keir Starmer carries on presiding over a system that is palpably unfair, he's going to be in big trouble. This country's going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, we're already in big trouble, aren't we? And that's a great example you've raised there, Kev. It's making my blood boil, and what it must be doing for people on the drive home. Don't crash in anger at that kind of story, because it's just
extraordinary, isn't it? It's extraordinary.
There's one insight into this that might be useful for people as a take home, that in the kind of academic literature on this, as to when you talk about fairness, and everybody I think agrees a very British thing is a sense of fairness and fair play. There's a difference between people of a kind of right wing brain and people of a left wing brain. When you stick them in an MRI or a CT and scan them, and you get different takes on that word fairness. That people on the left think that it means equality and everybody getting the same thing. If you've got an iPhone and I've got an iPhone, then this chap who's just coming off a dinghy should be allowed to have an iPhone as well, and that's only fair, right? But people on the right think that the word fairness means something like proportionality, that you get out of something what you put into it, and if you work harder than the person next to you, then you should get to keep more of that. And that is what I think most Brits deep down really think. But Keir Starmer, being a commie as frankly he is, doesn't understand that, and therefore is perfectly happy to take money away from everybody here who's listening to this program and to give it, as you say, to a Samsung or an iPhone to some recent arrival. And that is, I think, at the heart of the unfairness that so many millions of us feel.
Absolutely. What we actually think is, iPhone or Samsung, I'm not having to make that choice, but unlike these asylum seekers, I'm going to have to pay for it myself with my own money. They're going to get it for free. That isn't fair, and that is a recipe for disaster.